All right, let's get right into it. You know, every now and then, a piece of technology comes along that feels like it just completely rewrites the rules of the game. Well, today we're looking at one of those exact moments for UI development, a huge breakthrough that takes on one of the oldest, most annoying problems on the web.
And this quote, it just perfectly sets the scene. We're talking about Cheng Lou, who used to be on the React core team. He just released a new library, and let me tell you, this is not just another package you npm install. This is the result of an absolutely epic struggle to solve a problem that has been making developers miserable for years.
So, what is this holy grail he brought back from that journey? It's called Pretext. And at its core, yeah, it's a tool for measuring text. Now, I know what you're thinking. Measuring text? That sounds kind of dry, right? But trust me, you're going to want to stick around. This is a massive game changer, and we're about to see exactly why.
Okay, so to really get why Pretext is such a big deal, we first have to meet the villain of our story. We've got to understand the single biggest performance bottleneck when it comes to building modern, complex user interfaces.
So what gives? Why is something that seems so simple, like just putting text on a screen, always force developers into this tough spot where they have to choose between a really cool user experience and, one that's actually fast? Well, the answer is buried deep inside the browser's old architecture.
The culprit has a name, layout reflow. The best way to think about it is like the browser has to yell, "Everybody stop," and then pull out a measuring tape to remeasure every single thing on the page. It is, without a doubt, one of the most expensive and time-consuming things a browser can possibly do.
And you can see right here just how wild this process is. Your app asks a totally reasonable question, something like, hey, how tall is this one paragraph? And in response, the browser triggers a full reflow. It doesn't just measure your little paragraph. Oh no, it recalculates the size and position of absolutely everything. The header, the footer, the sidebars, all of it. And the result? Your UI gets slow and janky.
This really puts it in perspective, doesn't it? The basic way browsers render things was designed back when the internet looked totally different. It was never meant for the kind of super dynamic, text-heavy apps we want to build today, things like virtualized lists or those cool masonry layouts. It's literally a performance killer from another era.
But here's the thought. What if you could just sidestep that whole messy process? What if you could get the measurements you need without ever waking up that sleeping giant? Well, that's exactly where Pretext comes in. It doesn't try to fix the old broken pipeline. It cleverly builds a whole new path forward.
And this right here is the aha moment. The old way was stuck using the DOM, the live structure of your web page, which always triggers that expensive reflow. Pretext says, no, not doing that. It takes a totally different route, using the Canvas API, which works outside the DOM, to get the job done silently and, most importantly, super fast.
So let's break that down real quick. For measuring how wide a piece of text is, Pretext taps into the Canvas API. This gives it perfect measurements without ever having to poke the DOM. But for the height, that's where it gets even more brilliant. Cheng Lou actually had to write a custom algorithm that perfectly mimics how every single browser handles line breaks in every language. The result? No reflows at all.
And all that incredibly complex work behind the scenes gives developers this beautifully simple API. You just prepare your text, which chops it up and saves the widths. Then you ask it to lay out the text, and bam, it instantly gives you back the total height and how many lines it takes up. It's that easy. You get accurate dimensions with zero performance hit.
Okay, so this is more than just a cool technical trick. It's a creative breakthrough. By just removing this performance barrier that's been around for decades, Pretext is opening the door to user interfaces that we just thought were not practical to build on the web.
Right, so the obvious question is, what can you actually do with this newfound superpower? Well, the answer is kind of mind-bending, actually. Let's look at an example that shows just how far you can take this thing.
So check this out. Using Pretext, you could build an app that renders a video, but the video itself is made entirely out of text characters. Here's how it works. Pretext is used to perfectly map every single character of a script to a cell in a grid. Then, a regular video plays on a tiny, hidden canvas. The app looks at the brightness of each pixel in that video and then decides whether to show the character in the matching grid cell. And what you get is this. The image from the video literally forms itself out of letters, using brightness to create the picture. This is only possible because Pretext can do that impossibly hard job of mapping thousands of characters in an instant, something that would have just crashed the browser if you tried it the old way. It's just an incredible demo of what's now possible.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. That demo is really cool, for sure. But the real impact here is the fundamental change this represents for pretty much every single person who builds stuff for the web.
And this is really the heart of it. Pretext is proof of a totally new way of thinking. For the very first time, developers can snatch control of text measurement away from that slow, clunky browser pipeline. The power is finally back in our hands.
So what does that mean for you and me? It means a whole category of apps. We're talking complex chat apps, infinite scrolling social feeds, dynamic data visualizations. All of that is now possible to build with the speed and smoothness we've always dreamed of. It really unlocks a whole new level of high-performance engineering for the web.
And that kind of leads us to the final thought here. Freeing text measurement from the browser was something people thought was pretty much impossible for decades. And now that it's been done, it really makes you wonder, what other impossible browser problems are just sitting there waiting for another breakthrough like this? What's next?